Hey, what is up guys, Nick here, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the third episode of Arrow Season 3, titled Corto Maltese. And right away, going into the episode, that was a reference to the Dark Knight Returns, Corto Maltese, the fictional island, based in South America, which is pretty cool. I thought right off the bat that Easter egg. And so previously we had the Arrow team grieving over the death of Sarah. Now in this episode, we find Oliver trying to reconnect with his sister Thea. He hasn't seen her in 5 months, and he knows that she left Starling City, but he doesn't know exactly where she went. So for the first 10 minutes or so, they're trying to track her down, and they find out that she is at Corto Maltese. So they go and try to convince her to come back, and she doesn't want to go initially. And we find out through flashbacks. This episode was primarily focused on Thea. All of the flashbacks were of her, and going basically into her training with her father Malcolm. And it was pretty interesting how he trained her. He initially started off being really lax with her and trying to be more like a father to her rather than just train her as a mentor. But once he found that that tactic wasn't working, he quickly realized that he has to do anything to train her. So he treats her like just anybody that he was going to train. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And Thea proves in this episode that she's a lot stronger than she looks. She knows how to fight, we see, and she knows how to take pain a lot better than she did before her training. And another subplot is continuing over the death of Sarah. Laurel is still grieving with that and trying to figure out what she can do to try and get over the rage that she feels. She knows that she can't turn to alcohol again, and she doesn't want to do anything with the law, so she turns to fighting, and she gets into a fight, and it doesn't really turn out well for her, even though she does have hand-to-hand combat training to an extent. But we are introduced to Wildcat, Ted Grant, so that was pretty cool. And it seems like he's going to be training Laurel because Oliver declines to train her. She goes to him first, but he says that it wouldn't be right, and Sarah would never forgive him for training her to be the next, canary. So I like that she's going to be under the mentorship of Ted Grant instead. I think that's a really cool way to introduce the character, and hopefully he might be going out with Laurel in the nights to fight crime, possibly suiting up. Uh, but yeah, just moving on, we get some more into Diggle's relationship and that status, and more into Roy and how Roy is feeling too with Thea, and exactly like his feelings towards her, and just overall, you know, he's like all of the characters are feeling a gap from Thea. It's like these episodes are really thematic, and this one felt to me about like connection and reconnecting and letting go of past, differences. And I really like that about that. And by the end of the episode, we see Thea back with Oliver and returning to Starling City and possibly taking up the mantle of Mia Dearden from the comics, from the run that Kevin Smith created. But we don't know for sure. I doubt she'll suit up, but it's cool that she's getting sort of a comic book treatment. And going more into the Easter eggs of this episode, there was a lot dealing with Ray Palmer's character. We got in reference to the Omax actually towards the end of the episode, where Felicity leaves to go to Central City, I believe, and because Barry is awoken, and she'll be on the next episode of The Flash actually. And it was pretty cool that when Felicity left the room, Ray Palmer continued to search through the Queen Consolidated Computer Database, and he stumbled across some advanced weaponry, and we're seeing it as he is on the computer screen. And if you look in the bottom corner, you can see the word OMAC written, and I actually thought that was a really, really cool reference to that, and I would have never imagined that on the show. I mean, the OMACs are pretty out there, and they're in the comics now, but not a lot of people know about that. I thought it was a really like small nod to hardcore comic book fans. And another reference that I saw was to Coast City, actually. There's an anonymous tip. The man that beat up Laurel, I believe, gets pretty much picked up by the cops by an anonymous tip, and he's from Coast City, which is another Green Lantern reference. And the episode ends with a cliffhanger. This is spoiler alert. Nisa Al Ghul returns to Starling City. Sorry, she shows up in the Arrow Cave demanding where Sarah is. So I'm assuming that she doesn't know what happened to her. And it's looking like things are going to be getting pretty out of hand next episode, titled The Magician. And that's when Nisa Al Ghul is going to return. And they've released some images of it. It looks pretty awesome. That was a pretty interesting way to end that episode, I think, with Nisa coming in. But overall, I really like this episode. I'd give it about an 8.5, actually. I mean, just across the board, it was just solid. I mean, this show is just ramping up more and more every week, and it's becoming something more than it, started out. It's just like seeing these comic book shows evolve is it's a dream come true, really, as a fan of comics and this medium. But overall, just let me know what you guys thought down below. What are your hopes for the season? Do you want to see more of Wildcat? And do you think that Laurel will become the next Black Canary indeed? And what are your thoughts on Ray Palmer? Because he was looking pretty sinister at the end of there when he was looking at the Omax. I think he has something pretty sinister actually planned, because his character seems very different from the comic book counterpart, and even the one in the animated series. Just let me know what you guys think down below of this episode, and I'll catch you next week for the next review. See ya.